So,
Hmm.
talk to me about how exactly you got started in this industry and field. Like, did you study it? Were you just like naturally attracted to it? Because obviously, I'm sure you started somewhere, and now you're obviously an expert, and definitely sounds like it. But how did you get started, and what intrigued you so much about this field?
Yeah, I got my start in marketing by uh, lying my way into an unpaid marketing internship because I didn't have any qualifications. I never went to university. I don't have any degrees. I barely graduated high school. Thanks to
And how long ago was this?
this was I started in marketing about 10 years ago.
Nice.
And I was working for this company, and I was really struggling because I didn't know what I was doing. And I was kind of like reading like the HubSpot blog, and I was reading Google search algorithm updates every week, and I was kind of like just trying to like get all the tips and tricks and the hacks into my system, as many of them as I could. And nothing was just like working. Nothing was moving the needle, and I got really like disenfranchised by the whole thing, and I was like, I'm gonna quit. I like wrote up my letter of resignation because I just hated marketing so much. But just before I handed it in, I met up with a friend who'd kind of worked his way up to like a senior marketing position, and I explained to him like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be leaving, I'm gonna be quitting soon, and he asked me why, and I told him, and he was like, oh, you're doing it all wrong. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, most marketing problems are copywriting problems in disguise.
Hmm.
And that kind of like set a light bulb off for me. I was like, oh, I never even really thought about copywriting that much. I just thought it was about like, I thought it was about distribution. I thought it was about promoting and like kind of, being loud basically. But copywriting calls on you to be more precise than loud. Um, And so I was like, okay, well, before I hand in my letter of resignation, I'll go through and I'll learn a bit more about copywriting. And when I did that, this whole world of like strategy and psychology and positioning and messaging opened up to me, and then I started applying that kind of stuff. And it was like going from hard mode to easy mode, like the same audience that I couldn't get to much before were now flooding in, and that kind of set me on this path of like, oh, it's all about the communication. It's not about the channels or the hacks or the whatever. It's about how do you communicate the value of a product. And then that kind of like led me on a path, and I focused on that. And then I started working kind of freelance while I was working a marketing job as well. And I was on a sales call with someone, and this was the other light bulb moment for me. She said, "It's not that I can't write; it's that I don't know what to write." And I was like, yeah, that's exactly spot on. Like, it's not like people don't need more words. Like,
Hmm.
AI can produce unlimited words. People need a worthwhile message. They need something to say. And then the words are just a vehicle for getting an idea from your mind into their mind. But if you don't have a good idea, then why are you bothering communicating? And this is where most brands are falling short at the moment, because they're loud, but they're not precise. They're not saying anything worthwhile. And so that kind of led me on a path away from like writing words for brands to helping brands find worthwhile messages to talk about. And that was another big turning point in my career, and that's where I was able to um, quit my job and earn like very comfortable six figures and lead a pretty pretty nice life. Yeah.
Nice. So talk to me about like how long did it exactly take you from just kind of going from like, okay, well, it's not it's a copywriting problem, and then you
Mm.
obviously went to now, which is your main focus now of brand positioning and strategy. How long did that time frame take you, and what were some like key takeaways and some mistakes that you see brands actually making today?
Mm. It took me longer than I'd care to admit, to be honest. I was doing like the digital marketing stuff for businesses, generally working kind of in house at businesses and nonprofits. for about 7 years, and kind of spinning my wheels and kind of like getting frustrated that like the senior leadership teams like didn't get or kind of believe in marketing in the way that I wanted them to. Um, and this was actually a big thing. The reason I started my TikTok account, which is, as you said, now over 100,000 followers, I just wanted to get better at explaining marketing to non-marketers. Um, and I think this is kind of why it worked, because I was literally like, I wasn't trying to sell anything. I was just like wanting to like force myself to condense down like one principle into like a 1 minute TikTok and communicate that effectively. And then just by doing that, people were like, oh, like, how do I hire you? And I was like, I don't know. I had to get like a website together.
Right.
So it happened very kind of organically. And now I'm semi decent at communicating marketing to non marketers. Um, but it was really like it was 2020 is when things started to change. I was posting on TikTok. I was getting a lot of experience working with businesses and brands from all kind of categories, and having the ability. This is like the big advantage of, I think, agency versus in-house. If anyone's got a marketing background, um, agency, you get to kind of work with a whole thing of a whole set of different brands, and you can kind of like see the patterns and see what works between those things. Whereas in-house, you're really only just focused on one thing, and you can kind of go deeper, but you're more limited in like where you're able to like perceive as like opportunities. And so now I'm very much like I don't really work on retainers. I'm much more of a liberating force than I am an occupying force. So I'll like come in, kick down the doors, get the positioning, messaging, copywriting in order, and then I'll peace out and I'll go to the next job. And that's kind of what I like, and that's actually allowed me to like really get a good sense of like what works and what doesn't work when communicating value, especially for B2B businesses, which is what I focus on.
Yeah, and I also saw that on your website as well. I think one of the great things about your websites, by the way, that I noticed that
Mm.
really caught my attention, and I'm pretty sure it catches a lot of other people's attention, is obviously you listed out in the two areas that you're most compatible with, which is and correct me if I'm wrong, please. It's B2B businesses and also software as a service, right?
Yeah, it's B2B service based businesses, like
Mm-hmm.
like an accounting firm, let's say, and then like
Right.
software as a service, B2B SaaS businesses as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
My
I'm very
apologies.
deliberate
Yeah.
about like who I work with and who I don't. So on my website, I say I'm a good fit for these businesses, and I'm not a good fit for e-commerce and luxury. And I'm very obvious about who I'm excluding. And by doing that, it actually forces the people who are right for you to be more magnetically pulled towards you as well. Like, oh, cool, this person is like a specialist in this area. It's a big trust signal.
Yep, and that's exactly what I was gonna get to. That obviously everybody specifies on the things that they're expert in, right? But you, in particular,
Mm.
you had actually specified the things that you are not compatible with, and I was like, okay, I think like you mentioned, like I think that trust factor was like, okay, well, if he's literally telling me that I want to hire this man, but he still won't take my money just because I'm a luxury goods brand, then I kind of trust him